All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16 with Chase Robinson. The next schedule preview we're doing for the 25 SEC football season, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Chase, on to the Tide, who we talked about this offseason, looking to get things back on track after Kalen DeBoer's first season in Tuscaloosa. And you say get back on track, right? It's not like they had a losing record or anything like
Yep.
that, but get back to winning national championships. We know that's what they want to do, and so we will kind of dive into the schedule here and see what it looks like for what will obviously be a pivotal season 2 for Kalen DeBoer.
Massive. Yeah, 9-4 year. Most of the time, teams are happy, but that is not the case for Alabama. They want to see more. They want to see more W's and tough schedule. I mean, we're going to dive into this. It's not easy, and this would not be an easy schedule really for any team. And so interested to see how Alabama navigates it. How DeBoer navigates it, but really intrigued of what we could see in 2025 from Alabama.
All right, let's jump into it. Here's the schedule. We'll kind of go, again, sort of quarter by quarter here in terms of looking at these matchups. Chase, they start August 30th at Florida State. We know the Seminoles coming off a very disappointing season, wanting to get back on track. Again, we talk about disappointment. One thing for Alabama, where they finished last year, another where Florida State wound up after where things were the year before. Then it's a couple games in Tuscaloosa, ULM, and the return game against Wisconsin, which of course we saw Alabama go up there, get a nice win last year in that one.
Yeah, I like this Florida State matchup with Alabama. The fact that they're opening up, it's in Tallahassee. It's not at a neutral site. It's Alabama going to Florida State and playing a football game. I think Florida State's going to be much better this year. Gus Malzahn is offensive coordinator there at Florida State, and SEC fans remember him from his time as the head coach at Auburn. So their offense is going to be much, much better. This is a fascinating game that I think Alabama has got to take really serious to start the season, because you are on the road, and Florida State fans would love nothing more than to watch their team start the season off with a win, because they didn't get many of those last year. And to start it off against Alabama would be huge. So Alabama's got to start the season off ready to roll. And I think 2 out of these first 3 games are going to be difficult. I think Wisconsin will be better than they were last year. That one's in Tuscaloosa, so that will most certainly help. But you get 2 tough non-conference opponents in the first 3 games. That's a bit of a tough start for Alabama.
Yeah, I think Florida State, if you look at Phil Steele, I think has Florida State kind of in that upper tier, as you would expect in the ACC, but still, behind obvious choices like Clemson, Miami, SMU. Those teams are still, I think for most people, going to be projected ahead of the Seminoles. I think he has Florida State and Georgia Tech kind of right there in the same sort of area. So worth noting on that for the Seminoles. And like you said, Wisconsin, always, a team that you cannot take very lightly, as you said, just based on the way it works there. All right, so then certainly it's the off week, and always nice to have the off week before the next game, which is the trip to Athens. That is going to be, certainly one of your headline games for Alabama this season. Heading there to Sanford Stadium to play Georgia. Then, you get sort of kind of a back and forth there, coming back home to play Vanderbilt at Missouri, and then another rivalry showdown against Tennessee in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I think Alabama's going to be 3-0 heading into this game with Georgia. And you're right, off week comes at a great time. I think that this game will get as much attention as it did last year, because I think both teams will be contenders for the playoff, will be 3-0. I think it'll be a huge game. It's in Athens this year. It was in Tuscaloosa last year with all the buzz. That's going to be really tough for Alabama to go into to Sanford Stadium and take on Georgia this early in the season, because you think about where this game falls. You're still trying to break in your starting quarterback of most likely Ty Simpson. He'll have 3 games to do that, and a couple of good opponents to help him get ready. But the first SEC game under the lights, prime time there at Sanford Stadium. Welcome to the SEC. That's an SEC. That's your first SEC game for whoever the starting quarterback is. Again, most likely Ty Simpson. That'll be a tough one on the road. to start off conference play.
Well, and I think it goes back to what you said about that first game. Even though Florida State, as we mentioned, they'll be improved. It's nice to probably have that if you're Ty Simpson as
Oh
a
yeah,
road game to start the season versus let's say the first 3 games are in Tuscaloosa, and then all of a sudden September 27th turns around. You're like, all right, game 1 on the road at Georgia. Good luck. I think so. At least different teams, different atmospheres a little bit, but it'll still be rowdy in Tallahassee. But I think that's at least something that stands out here when you look at kind of this part of the
yeah.
schedule, and then like we said, having the teams coming after that, getting Tennessee and Vanderbilt at home with that road trip to Missouri sandwiched in there.
Yeah, and that's a great point about the Florida State game, because even if it was like a neutral site game, like at Mercedes-Benz Stadium or something, like there's going to be a lot of Alabama fans that are there. It's going to feel more like a home game. But yeah, playing in Tallahassee, that place is going to be rocking even at 2:30 in the afternoon when they kick off there on August 30th. But yeah, that's an excellent point. And yeah, you mentioned like the Vanderbilt game in Tennessee, both in Bryant-Denny. I think the Vanderbilt game for Alabama. Alabama's going to be locked in for that game. I mean, they got to be. They learned that last year, and there's been comments from both sides. Ryan Williams has made some comments. Diego Pavia has made some comments on that game and how it might go there on October the 4th. But I think Alabama's going to be locked in on that game. And again, I think Bryant-Denny Stadium will be ready for Vanderbilt and Tennessee, especially what happened last year. Going up to Knoxville and letting that game slip away. I think that's good to have that one at home. And then a trip to Missouri, I think there's still a lot of questions on Missouri at this point. So we'll see where they stand. But I think that to have Vanderbilt at home, to have Tennessee at home is huge right there in the middle of the season.
Yeah, 2 revenge-minded games there at home in a span of a couple of weeks with those two. But then, of course, speaking of revenge-minded, I think South Carolina may want to have a little bit of that too when they play Alabama. We remember what the game looked like last season, and now this time around, it's going to be a game at Williams-Brice Stadium, which I know when you look at the FBS schedules, projected game times there, 3:30 to 8 p.m. You can bet South Carolina's hoping for that 8 p.m. They love to have that as the rocking night game, which seems like it would be a decent possibility. We'll see where the teams are at that point. But of course, having come off of the game against Tennessee, then you got to go to South Carolina, off week, and then the grind continues, playing the back-to-back games against LSU and what we think is going to be an improved Oklahoma team after that. So we talk about a tough schedule. You said earlier, it's not an easy schedule for Alabama when you just look at kind of the grind and the way these games are set up on the schedule. Those 4 right there in a row. And that's not taking anything away from Missouri or Vanderbilt, of course, at all. But Tennessee at South Carolina, home against LSU, home against Oklahoma. I know 3 of those are at home, but that's a tough stretch.
It certainly is. And look, Blake, as we sit here doing this in June, there's not a snap of football that's been played yet. But to me, this game at South Carolina is the most important on Alabama's schedule. You have already played Georgia. You've already played Tennessee. Throw Vanderbilt, Missouri in there, and the rest of the schedule. This is late October. Important time of college football is late October. And you've got to go to South Carolina, a team that almost beat you at home last year. You had a couple of breaks go your way if you're Alabama, and you won that game by 2. It's a massive game because, South Carolina has revenge on their mind. They would love nothing more than for Alabama to come to Williams-Brice Stadium and win that game. They're going to be focused. That's going to be a massive game for South Carolina. And so if you're Alabama and you have playoffs on your mind in 2025, which they do, and I think they're very capable of getting there. But again, you've played Georgia. You've played Tennessee. You've got some other teams that could slip in and beat Alabama on the schedule. And then you go to South Carolina. This is massive. It is a massive game because you also have LSU coming up. You've got Oklahoma is going to be much better. And so the where this game sits to me is the most interesting part because you've got to be locked in coming off of Tennessee. That's a emotional rivalry for Alabama, very physical game also. And then you've got an off week, and then LSU and South Carolina scheduled right between those. It's massive. Like I think that game is so important. That's like a make or break to me for Alabama. Because you lose that one, you're in a tough spot because, again, you got Georgia, LSU, Oklahoma, Tennessee all on the schedule. And you can lose a couple and get in the playoffs, but we learned Alabama last year, like when your back's against the wall, you got to be able to win games. They've got to be able to win games down the stretch. I just think that South Carolina game is massive this year for Alabama.
Yeah, I mean it's not hard to find that potential cut line of losses here, where it's like there
Yep.
are 2 or 3 losses on the schedule just sitting there. It's just those are your turning point type games, and like you said, at South Carolina, certainly one of those for Alabama. And then of course they finish up. Eastern Illinois went 3-9 last year. Don't think we'll be looking at that one a lot. And then of course another, as always, a tricky game when you're playing on the road in the Iron Bowl at Auburn.
Oh, yeah. And this last portion of the schedule, having LSU and Oklahoma at home, huge. Having them in Tuscaloosa, because, again, those are going to be 2 really good teams. And then you get Eastern Illinois at home. So that's 3 straight home games before you go to Auburn. Crazy. The craziest things in the Iron Bowl happen inside Jordan-Hare Stadium. And so, however the team's records have gone, that's going to be a really good game in the Iron Bowl there in Auburn. But having those 3 games at home to end the season, I think is really big for Alabama, especially the teams that are coming in. We remember what happened when Alabama went to Oklahoma last year and losing that game there against the Sooners. So to get them back at home, I think the hardest part of the schedule is definitely that middle part. The teams are tough in the bottom part, but you've got 3 straight at home, and I think that's big for Alabama. But this is a tough schedule, and again, to end it at Auburn is really tough because crazy things happen there at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
They do indeed. And if you want to head to any of these games this year, you're going to want to do it with a friend of ours, and that is Game Time Sidekicks. Be sure to check out all the great work those guys are doing. GameTimeSidekicks.com. Use that code SE16, SE16. You can get 10% off your order there. And remember, it's the officially licensed stainless steel drinkware. All SEC schools, over 350 more universities they have. All sorts of great stuff. Tons of designs, logos for each school. They've got the college vault line, everything from the stainless steel sippy cups, tumblers, and the 40-ounce bottles, shaker cups. They've got it all. Check it out, SC16, 10% discount for our viewers. So let us know your thoughts on the Alabama football schedule for the 2025 season. What are your predictions? What are your record predictions? All that fun stuff. Let us know what you think in the comments. We appreciate you guys watching. We'll talk to you soon at Southeastern 16.